This land of ice and fire has many characteristics that have given it popularity worldwide, such as its volcanoes, elves, mythology, tourist places, and politics. But how about we talk about sex life in Iceland? Yes, I know. This is a small country in the northwest of Europe, between Greenland and Norway, but it has one of the most liberal cultures in the world when it comes to sexual relations. Do you want to know more about them? Join us to discover them. Let's start by saying that Iceland is a fan of nudism, which may surprise people from other countries and cultures. Icelanders find it strange that people of other nationalities are so shy about showing their nudity and having casual sex in Icelandic culture. And it is very normal and accepted that men and women can talk freely about this. They have a lot of influence both in Icelandic society and at home. They are determined women who take the initiative and are independent of men. Today, Iceland is known as a destination to discover impressive and different landscapes with volcanoes, glaciers, horses, sheep, and all that nature highly appreciated by Icelanders. Without a doubt, one of the most beautiful and impressive countries in the world. An example of the natural beauty of Iceland is the Skogafoss waterfall, surrounded by lush green meadows in summer and covered in snow in winter. It is 25 meters wide and 60 meters high, and legend has it that the first Vikings in the region buried treasures in caves beneath this waterfall. Spending a fun night with a man or woman is perfectly normal for Icelanders. The game of conquest between a man and a woman is something only an Icelander can imagine. Icelandic men are very liberal, as are women. You don't need to have a first, second, and third date to go to bed. Among the couple in Iceland, women have a lot of initiative. It is common to see a woman in charge of a family business, while her husband plays a secondary role in the work environment. They may have a similar status or be the people with the greatest responsibility in Iceland. But what is certain is that women have control. It is common for women to run the family business, while their husbands play minor roles, also in a work team. They may have a similar status or be the person with the most responsibility. Have you found it interesting so far? Like and share if so, that many more can learn about the culture of this Nordic country and its contrast with many countries in the world where men are expected to take the initiative and women are rarely seen in leadership positions. Their way of thinking is that if sex is considered important in the relationship, it makes sense to get to the point and then decide whether to continue the relationship or whether there is mutual interest. This is how some Icelandic men and women operate. In this country, sexual relations generally occur at the time of first contact. This is not a negative view. There are historical explanations for this sexual freedom in Nordic culture dating back to the first inhabitants of Iceland, the Vikings. The Vikings had an open attitude towards sexuality, including premarital relations and women having decision-making power over marriage and divorce, as well as sexual freedom in Iceland and other Nordic countries, have historical explanations in their cultural beliefs and practices. For example, real equality and openness between women and men dates back to the first inhabitants of Iceland. Viking culture had an open view of sex, and premarital sex was common. Women were allowed to take a test to see if their future husband would be sexually satisfactory, and if the man failed the test, the woman could choose not to marry him. Women could marry from the age of 15, often to older men, and families could arrange marriages, but women always had the final say after marriage. Viking women had many rights, including the right to divorce and the right to inherit land. In the early days of the Viking Age, relationships outside of marriage were allowed, but later it became a crime, and people involved could be killed, both them and their lovers. Sexual relations are often mentioned in Icelandic sagas, describing Icelandic settlements in the 10th and 11th centuries. Later, in 1777, smallpox struck much of the Icelandic population, killing about 12,000 Icelanders, a quarter of the population at that time in 1707. Iceland was part of the Kingdom of Denmark. The Danish king ruled that all Icelandic women, whether married or not, should have 6 children in times of crisis. This was not considered unfair, violent, or shameful, but necessary for the survival of the people in these days. Did you know all this? Leave us your comment about what you thought life was like in this country, and if you already knew something about it, since today many series explain the customs of these countries. Let's continue with the traditional dating part, which can be uncomfortable for Icelanders. What they like most is to meet a man or woman at a party bar or on an app, go to their house, have a relationship, and decide whether to continue dating that person or not. A sign sign of equal rights and independence of women in Iceland is their position in universities or parliament in universities. There are around 2 female students for every male student, and in parliament, around 50% are women. When it comes to beliefs, Icelanders don't always believe that only men want to have sex. It is considered acceptable and normal for a woman to want it and can confidently ask for what they want. Therefore, in Iceland, women are not shy about expressing their sexual intentions. In fact, it is the opposite. A woman who speaks her mind is seen as strong, capable, and happy with who she is. Icelanders do not idealize romantic love and do not practice it much. Although the winter cold is not as extreme as in other countries, where temperatures easily fall below -10 degrees, severe storms with very strong winds and blizzards are nevertheless possible. In the year 934, shortly after the first settlements, Iceland suffered one of the largest eruptions in its history. The Java volcano spewed lava and gas that crossed Europe and reached China. Approximately 70% of children in Iceland are children of single parents, broken or separated families. If you are separated or divorced, it is normal to have lunch, meet up, and keep in touch with your ex-spouse or current partner. So there is no clear concept of a totally broken family. This is another point we would like to tell you about. Showering naked is not seen as a sexual experience. You can do this in hot springs that are safe and without people around. Even if Iceland walks by, it is unlikely that they will see this as a scandal. It is a way to connect with nature to accept human nature. There are hot springs throughout the country with ideal temperatures for bathing, but there are also hot springs with high temperatures, so be sure to check the temperature before entering Iceland. It is also a geologically young country that is constantly forming. The Blue Lagoon is another of the most famous places in Iceland and one of the most memorable when visiting the country. The spa has an artificial lagoon that is heated all year round, so even if it is very cold outside, you can bathe in warm water and relax. However, keep in mind that spa showers and public pools are the most common places to see nudity. Another curiosity about this country is that, because it has a relatively small population, there is a system to verify if 2 people with similar backgrounds are interested in having children or falling in love. In this way, problems with genetic diseases in children can be avoided. The future. People usually meet through apps or social media, chat virtually, and then meet in person. They also meet in bars, at work, at the gym, or at university. Iceland is one of the best places in the world for women. About 90% of women work and also participate in politics in the country. The country's first democratically elected female president, Vigdis Finnboga, daughter, was president of Iceland from 1986 to 1986. We close by saying that the country has a positive attitude towards sex and nudity, but Icelanders do not want the country to be seen as a place where pleasurable sex can be enjoyed. Also, it is not recommended to do this first if you have time to explore its natural wonders. It is recommended if you think this view of personal relationships is more positive, or if you prefer your view of the country. Let us know in the comments if you liked this video. Click like, subscribe to this channel, and see you in the next video.